Imagine this. In 2022 alone, the Malaysian government's projected fuel subsidy reached an emphasized with a punchy delivery RM28 billion. To put that into perspective, that is more than double the RM11 billion spent just a single year before. Or, to keep petrol artificially cheap for everyone, regardless of whether they drive a basic compact car or a luxury supercar. Now, I get it. Paying less at the pump feels like a fantastic benefit to our wallets right now. But here is the hard and uncomfortable truth that RM28 billion is drawn directly from our national budget. Those are precious public funds that could otherwise be used to build your university facilities, upgrade our public healthcare systems, and drastically improve the public transportation networks that you and I rely on daily. After conducting extensive research on Malaysia's economic policies and reviewing comprehensive peer-reviewed data from energy and economic journals, I have seen the profound long-term damage our current subsidy framework inflicts on our national financial health. This is why I'm standing before you today to declare that Malaysia must urgently end the blanket drawn 95 subsidy. This current system creates a severe national budget deficit, opens the floodgates for massive cross-border leakages, and severely paralyzes our transition toward renewable energy. Today, I will demonstrate exactly why this economic shift is non-negotiable. First, removing the blanket subsidy will repair our national budget. Second, targeting financial aid will stop systemic leakage. And third, eliminating cheap fossil fuels will accelerate our transition to renewable energy. First, let's look at the severe financial toll the blanket system inflicts on our overall economy. The plain reality is that the blanket fuel subsidy creates an unsustainable financial burden that severely limits Malaysia's economic efficiency and inflates our national budget deficit. According to advanced economic modeling by researchers Lee, See and Su 2017, published in the prestigious journal Energy Policy, subsidizing energy is highly unfavorable from an economic perspective and places a heavy, unnecessary strain on government expenditure. But their research also offers a beacon of hope. Their data proves that completely removing petroleum and gas subsidies optimizes our nation's economic efficiency, directly boosting Malaysia's GDP by up to 6.65%. Furthermore, eliminating this blanket framework would immediately shrink our national budget deficit, freeing up vital capital that the government can use for targeted social development instead of quite literally burning our future away at the petrol pump. Second, beyond the overall economic cost, the way this subsidy is currently distributed is highly inefficient. The current blanket subsidy system suffers from severe systemic inefficiencies, a profound misallocation of funds, and a rampant cross-border leakages. A study by Ismail 2024 in the ASM Science Journal highlighted that allowing all citizens unrestricted access to subsidized RON 95 is exactly what led to the crushing financial burden of RM28 billion in 2022. Think about how a blanket approach works. This means high-income earners who drive larger, gas guzzling, and multiple vehicles consume most of this subsidy, leaving the lower income groups who actually face financial hardships to struggle. To make matters worse, this untargeted system breeds massive external leakages. Organized smuggling syndicates actively bypass current enforcement and IC verification methods by utilizing local proxies and heavily modified vehicles to haul fuel. Smugglers leak this fuel across borders or sell it directly to foreign vehicles. This means that we, as Malaysian taxpayers, are directly dipping into all our own pockets to subsidize non-citizens. Third, while we lose billions of ringgit to inefficiencies and leakages, we are also actively sacrificing our environmental future. Keeping fossil fuel subsidies alive directly slows down Malaysia's critical transition to a green economy and makes it incredibly difficult for us to reach our national renewable energy targets. As researchers Yaakob 2024 explained in the journal Helion, Malaysia's goal of reaching a 31% renewable energy share in its power generation mix by 2025 is being heavily hindered by these ongoing fossil fuel subsidies. Their analysis clearly demonstrates that keeping fossil fuels artificially cheap removes the financial motivation for both the public and private sectors to transition or invest in green energy alternatives. When petrol is heavily subsidized, the public has very little financial incentive to utilize public transportation or switch to electric vehicles. Therefore, rationalizing and completely removing these fuel subsidies is an absolute prerequisite to expanding sustainable energy use, lowering our carbon emissions, and meeting our global climate commitments. In conclusion, the evidence clearly shows that the era of blanket RON 95 subsidy must end for the sake of our nation's future. Today, we have looked at how removing the fuel subsidy will repair our national budget deficit, stop the flagrant misallocation of funds and cross-border leakages, and provide the vital economic push needed to accelerate our renewable energy sector. We can no longer afford to let RM28 billion bleed from our national funds to fuel luxury supercars while our universities, healthcare, and transit networks starve for resources. Therefore, I urge you today to shift your mindset and actively support the government's shift toward targeted subsidy reforms. We must collectively demand that the billions of ringgit saved from the pumps be reinvested directly where it matters most, into expanding our public transportation networks, building robust green infrastructures, and delivering targeted cash aid directly to the B40 group who truly need the support. The road to economic reform will undoubtedly cause some short-term discomfort, but completely ending the RON 95 blanket subsidy is the necessary fuel we must burn today to secure Malaysia's long-term economy and environmental survival.